Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are going to go over my base product inventory, go over what I currently have in my collection and what I would like to work on for this year, maybe pan or at least get some more use out of. So if you see me look down, it is because I have some notes here that I wanted to make sure I covered in this video. So I will be looking up and down, but you will see pictures on the screen of the current categories that I have, what is in each category, and I'll explain some of the items that I'm hoping to get out of my collection this year through project panning or declutters. So without further ado, let's get into it. First things first though, if you like project pans, inventory videos, and product reviews, please click that subscribe button. Currently I am posting every Wednesday and Saturday, but hope to start posting 3 days a week if possible. I'm still getting the hang of YouTube, so be patient with me, please. So now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, let's jump into it. So for my first section, primers, I currently have 13 primers in my collection. I'm giving myself the goal of I would like to have 10 primers by the end of the year. So I'm hoping to focus on 4 specific primers that I will use up this year. And then I gave myself a little bit of wiggle room, so hopefully I can, if there's one primer that I absolutely want to try out, I've given myself that ability to buy 1 primer this year. My rule is for primers that I must use up 2 primers before buying 1 new one. So the 4 primers that I would like to try panning this year are the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip, the 4th Ray Beauty Watermelon Glow, the Professional Dewy Primer, and the J1 Primer. And for the Milk Makeup Primer, I'm halfway through, a little more than halfway through, finishing up that product. It's going really well with the current Project Pan foundation I have, so I'd like to use it with the foundation that it works really well with and then roll it out of my collection. It's only on the use up category because I'm almost finished with it and I'd like to see it taken out of my collection. Eventually, if I get down to fewer primers, I'll think about repurchasing that one because I do love that primer. It extends the wear of my foundation, but currently I just have so many that I'd like to get some out of my collection to give myself room to try new ones. The 4th Ray Beauty Primer, it's okay. It's not my favorite, as I've said in my project pan. It's just an okay hydrating primer. I prefer some of my other hydrating primers that I have in my collection, so I'd just like to focus on it. It's going really well so far in my project pan. I'll probably have it used up in a few months, so I'd just like to get some use out of it and get it rolled out of my collection as well. The Professional Primer is not my favorite. I don't really like it as much. It just doesn't do anything for my skin. I don't really have pore problems, and if I do, I prefer the Tatcha Primer or the Touch and Soul Pore Filling Primer. So it's just not something I really need in my collection, and it doesn't feel great on my skin. So I'm just hoping to get that one out. And the J1 is way too sticky. It does not extend the wear of my foundation for how sticky it is. It occasionally works well mixed in with my Tatcha Pore Filling Primer, but it's not the best, and I prefer the Milk Hydro Grip over it, so I'd just like to use it up and get it out of my collection. It is pretty old, and I did purchase it because Kathleen White said it was a pretty great primer, but it is not my favorite, so I would like to get it used up. For foundations, I currently have 15 foundations, which I know it's a lot. It's a lot. I only have 1 base, so I should not need 15 foundations, but I love trying out foundations. I do have smile lines, so I was on the hunt for a while for the perfect foundation that wouldn't seep into my smile lines, and so far, I mean, it's just technique. You just put less foundation. I've learned that over the last 2 years. So now I can make almost any foundation work, so I need to just start using some of the foundations I have in my collection if I would like to bring new ones in. My goal for the end of the year is to also be down to 10 foundations. Currently, I am using up the Laura Mercier Dewy Foundation and the Too Faced Do You Foundation in my project pan. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I can use those up pretty quickly in the next few months and get those out of my collection. Both of them are just the wrong shade, so I have to mix them together to make my perfect shade. But when I do mix them up, they are lovely together. I'm really sad that the Too Faced Do You foundation is discontinued because mixing with that Laura Mercier foundation makes it last all day and makes it look absolutely beautiful. So I'm kind of sad to see it go, but gives me room for a new foundation. I'm also looking to pan the Too Faced Peach Perfect foundation. It's just a little drying for me, and I'm hoping to see if I can mix it in with the Do You foundation when I'm finished with the Laura Mercier. See if maybe the dewy plus the matte will equal out to a satin finish and then perfect color, because I also purchased the Peach Perfect foundation in a color that is too light for me, or in a shade that is too light for me, shall I say. So I do hope to finish that foundation, mix it in with the Do You, and at least get the Do You out of my collection, and then maybe pass on the Peach Perfect to a friend or a family member who could use it. My next foundation that I'd like to use up is my Hourglass Stick Foundation. It is the oldest foundation in my collection currently, or at least the oldest in the foundation category. I do have a foundation that is in the tinted moisturizer category that is actually older than that. And so I would just like to get some good use out of the stick foundation and get it out of my collection because it is getting kind of old. And with the whole controversy with Hourglass, I am not purchasing from them at the moment until they offer a wide variety of shade ranges, a wide variety of shades for different skin tones, including their face palettes. So, and finally, I would like to finish the Pat McGrath foundation. It is in the shade Light 3. It is too late for me. I was able to get a darker shade, but they sent me 2 of the Light 5 shade. So now I have 3 bottles of the Pat McGrath foundation, and I'm hoping to give away the one that is in the shade Light 3, but currently I have not found anybody who will take that off my hands. I only used it once, found out that the shade was too light, and then asked to replace it, and Pat McGrath's customer service said that they would just send me a new bottle. So that is how I ended up with 3 bottles of this very expensive foundation. So hopefully I can find a loving home for that shade. Then in the category of tinted moisturizers, I do live in Arizona. We get a lot of warm weather, so I like to wear a tinted moisturizer in the summer because foundation feels so thick on my skin and it's just nice for everyday wear. So I don't have too many tinted moisturizers because I stick to the ones I really love, but I do currently have 5 tinted moisturizers. I did purchase one last year, and another one is very old, so I would just like to take my collection down to 3 tinted moisturizers because I do have 3 favorites that I kind of continue to repurchase. So I'd like to take it back down to those 3, forward to my main 2, and then allow myself some space to purchase a new one if something catches my interest. So currently I would like to use the Hourglass Tinted Moisturizer because it is one of my older tinted moisturizers. I purchased it when I purchased the Hourglass Stick Foundation. They mix really well together and they look beautiful on the skin, so I'm hoping sometime in the spring when I get a slight tan that I can get use out of both the tinted moisturizer and the stick foundation and get them out of my collection. The MAC Face and Body. So this is the foundation that is technically the oldest in my collection, but I mostly use it in the summer because it is so lightweight and perfect for summer weather here. It's one of my absolute favorites, but obviously, as you can see, I was talked into the largest bottle possible because back then I did not have as many foundation options as I do now, and it's going to take me forever to use that up. So I will use it for as long as I can this year. If it still works just fine, the formula hasn't changed, then maybe I'll roll it into another summer season after this year, but I'd like to get as much use as possible out of it this year before it possibly goes bad. And those are the only two that I really want to focus on and get out of my collection. The other three are, one is new and the other two in my collection are my staples. Then for concealers, so for a while this category was single digit, and now it has gone up to 10. I currently own 10 concealers. 2 of them are currently in my project pan, so I would like to use those up pretty soon. They're way down at the bottom, so I should be able to get those out of my collection in the next few months. But besides those 2, I would like to also use up the Huda Beauty concealer because it is just slightly too thick. When I put it under my eyes, I have to use a brush instead of a sponge. It will not blend out with a sponge very nicely, and it does tend to crease on me. So I have put it in a few previous project pans, but it's so finicky that I haven't focused on it more than maybe a month before rolling something new. So I would like to focus on it this year and really try to get it out of my collection. So I am giving myself the goal of having 8 concealers by the end of the year. Again, I'm focusing on the 2 in my project pan, plus hopefully the Huda Beauty one. And will hopefully give myself enough wiggle room to try 1 or 2 concealers this year. For powder is usually a pretty easy category. I use up powder pretty quickly just because I like to set my face for my bronzer. So it's not too hard to pan a powder, at least a pressed powder. Sometimes those loose powders can take a while. So for my powders, I have 9 powders in my collection. I would like to see that go down to 7. And I'm aiming to finish up 3 powders this year, at least. Currently, I am working on the Bite Beauty powder, and it does have some significant progress. I don't want to give anything away before I post my Project Pan update video, but I've seen some significant progress. I've seen significant progress in my Bite Beauty powder, so I will hope to roll that out pretty soon. And the other 2 powders I'd like to use up are the Huda Beauty powder. It's an okay powder. It's a loose powder. It does set my under eyes really nicely. It is kind of drying, but if I use it very sparingly, then I can get some decent coverage out of it, decent usage out of it. If I do use it very lightly, then it does make my makeup look very nice and I can still see the shine, but it's not my favorite, and if I use too much of that powder, it can get crazy quickly. So I just kind of want to try to get that one used up and out of my collection. It is, again, an older powder, so most of these products that I would like to focus on this year are older products. Now, my Innisfree powder. This is actually a newer product that I purchased in South Korea last summer. I was so excited to see that it was available when I was there. I heard about it on Beauty News and wanted to try it. So I purchased it while in South Korea and then got it home and tried it, and it is so dry. And for my dry skin, it does not work well. So I'm either going to give that one away or try to use it in the summer with my tinted moisturizers to see if maybe in the summer it's a better match for me. but currently in the winter it is too dry for the dry climate that I am in, plus that powder. So those are all of my categories for base products. I'm hoping that you will see some progress in these categories through my project pan. I will check in at the 6-month mark and at the end of the year to see if I have made any progress in these areas, and I will continue to post inventory videos throughout the next few weeks, so subscribe if you'd like to see those. Believe me, blush, bronzer, and highlight are going to be an interesting one. I have not counted all of my blushes. I am slightly terrified to count all my blushes, but hopefully I can at least get 1 or 2 blushes out of my collection this year and reduce that number. So if you would like to stick around, watch Project Pan videos and inventory videos, I sure hope you subscribe. And that's all for today. I'll see you all next time. Bye.